The opening scene features a woman named Cecilia Cass who wakes in the middle of the night beside her boyfriend Adrian Griffin, a wealthy optics engineer and businessman. Cecilia turns out to be in a violent and controlling relationship and has been for a long time. Unable to tolerate it any longer, she finally decides to break free from his highly secured house. For this, she first administers a dose of diazepam to Adrian, retrieves her already prepared bag, and sneaks out of the mansion, all while monitoring him via CCTV on her phone. Before leaving the premises, she releases their dog Zeus from its shock collar, but it accidentally sets off the car's alarm, waking Adrian up. Diazepam be damned. As a result, she jumps off the wall and runs towards the highway. There, she is picked up by her younger sister Emily, who seems to be puzzled. Moments later, a furious Adrian comes running, comes out of nowhere, and demands that they open the door. He even smashes the car window, but the sisters manage to drive away just in time. The scene then fast forwards to 2 weeks later, and we learn that Cecilia has been staying in the home of her childhood friend, Detective James Lanier, and his teenage daughter Sydney. Despite James's efforts to ensure her safety, Cecilia remains reclusive and fears to set foot outside the house. Even random encounters, like a passing jogger, startle her. One day, Cecilia freaks out when Emily comes to visit her because she believes that Adrian knows where she lives and might have followed her here. However, Emily asserts that she doesn't have to be scared anymore, as Adrian has committed the unthinkable. Cecilia sits in shock and takes some time to process the news. She then finally confides in Emily and James about how abusive and controlling Adrian was toward her. She mentions that he wanted a baby, but knowing that it would only make her escape impossible, she continued taking birth control pills. The next day, Cecilia receives a letter from Tom, Adrian's brother and lawyer. He summons her to his office to fulfill his brother's final wish. Cecilia visits him with Emily and learns that Adrian has left her a $5 million fortune and an estate. With this money, Cecilia gifts James with a new ladder to paint his house. Cheap gift. And also gets Sydney admitted to her dream college. Okay, that's better. As a form of gratitude. At night, Cecilia feels somewhat uneasy, sensing that she is being watched and stalked by an unseen force. She looks around the house, but finds no one. As she walks outside in the cold, we see someone's breath beside her. In the morning, Cecilia is seen making breakfast in the kitchen. As she walks away for a brief moment, the knife moves mysteriously, and the burner automatically turns on to the highest temperature, igniting a fire. Seeing this, Cecilia and Sydney hurriedly grab an extinguisher and manage to put out the fire. These incidents prove the presence of some unseen force in the house. The guy's naked somewhere. In the middle of the night, Cecilia is sleeping next to Sydney when the blanket is slowly pulled off and several flashes of light are seen, as if someone is clicking some photographs. Cecilia wakes up and tries to retrieve the blanket, but it won't move. She then notices what look like footprints standing on the covers and slowly moving toward her. This freaks her out, so she screams loudly, waking up James and Sydney. She claims that someone is in the room, but the other two find nothing amiss. James then assures her she is just traumatized and paranoid, so she should take some rest. The message being that she's a woman after all, and no one is going to listen. The following day, Cecilia goes to a job interview for an architect's position. There, she tries to present her work portfolio contents, but finds her bag completely empty. She suddenly starts feeling dizzy and collapses to the ground. She is then rushed to the hospital where she gets her blood work done. Upon returning home, she receives a call from the doctor telling about high levels of diazepam found in her system, and that's what caused her to faint. To her horror, she finds the same bottle of bloodied diazepam in her bathroom, with which she drugged Adrian during her escape. Feeling unsafe, Cecilia, accompanied by James, goes to meet with Tom. She believes that Adrian faked his death and used his optics expertise to become invisible in order to torment her. She also recounts a chilling past incident when she was planning her escape in her mind, but much to her shock, he continued to stare at her and claimed that she can't escape from him at any cost. However, Tom rebuffs her idea since he has an urn with Adrian's ashes. He also presents her with crime scene photos to confirm that Adrian indeed committed the unthinkable. After this, Cecilia goes to talk to Emily, who is surprisingly angry with her, having received a hateful email from her account. Confused, Cecilia insists that she didn't send it, and that Adrian is doing all of this. However, her sister does not believe her claim and shuts the door on her. Back home, Cecilia checks her email and discovers the message sent from her account, causing her to have an emotional breakdown. And the acting is really good. A short while later, Sydney walks in and tries to cheer her up. Right then, an unseen force strikes Sydney in the face, making her think that Cecilia did it. Terrified, the girl screams and summons her father. James is enraged at Cecilia, but he decides to take his daughter out of the house to a safer place at first. Now that she is alone at the house, Cecilia tries various tactics to catch the unseen figure whom she believes is Adrian. She spills coffee grounds on the floor and stays in the bedroom waiting for him. She should have said, "Marco." Not long after, she tries to call Adrian's cell phone and hears it vibrating in the attic. Climbing up, she finds her work portfolio and Adrian's phone with several photos of her asleep. At the same time, she receives a text message saying, "Surprise." In a state of panic, she dumps a bucket of paint down the attic trap door, and it surprisingly coats the invisible figure.
Ooh, my favorite color. You remembered, babe.
After making her way back downstairs, she hears the kitchen sink running. Upon heading to check, she discovers that the figure has washed the paint off, as if it's that easy. In a self-defense move, she grabs a knife, but she is soon grabbed by the neck and thrown across the room. A violent struggle ensues, but Cecilia somehow manages to escape from the house. She hurriedly grabs an Uber and heads to Adrian's mansion near a seacoast. Upon arrival, she makes her way to Adrian's research lab in the basement. There, she discovers a high-tech bodysuit covered with cameras that can turn invisible, which finally confirms her suspicions. Cecilia takes this suit and hides it in their former bedroom's closet. As she prepares to walk out, she sees another pair of invisible footprints that attacks her again. Shortly after, their dog intervenes, buying her time to flee the scene.
We may be invisible, Raggy, but I know an asshole when I smell one.
Cecilia then sets up a meeting with Emily at a restaurant and apologizes while also explaining that she loves her. Emily's skepticism starts to melt as they begin to bond, after which Cecilia proceeds to disclose about the invisible suit at Adrian's lab. Just then, in a moment of eerie quiet, the invisible man slits Emily's throat and places the knife in Cecilia's hand, framing her for murder. In the aftermath, a shocked Cecilia is arrested and moved to a sanitarium. She continues to scream that Adrian killed her sister until she is strapped down and sedated. Afterwards, Cecilia is tested and interrogated for allegedly killing Emily. In defense, she tries to explain herself, but she senses Adrian's presence in the room and hesitates to do so. While awaiting trial, Cecilia is remanded to a psychiatric hospital where she learns an astonishing revelation. She is pregnant. She's going to give birth to a little invisible baby. A few days later, Tom comes to visit her and offers to get her charges dropped on one condition: give birth to the baby and return it to Adrian. Here, it is revealed that Tom helped stage his brother's death and was working with him the whole time. He further discloses that Adrian knew that she was taking birth control pills, so he swapped them with something else, which is how she got pregnant. Tom also says that she will lose the fortune and will be admitted permanently to this institution if she doesn't accept the deal. However, Cecilia, who is still devastated by her sister's death, turns him down. She throws Tom's belongings off the table, giving her a chance to steal one of his quill pens. Her master plan is to pretend that she's like Shakespeare. Later, in her room, Cecilia prepares to commit the unthinkable with the same pen. Oh, that's O. But the invisible man stops her. Turns out this was bait, and Cecilia uses this opportunity to stab him with the pen. This causes his suit to glitch, and for him to appear and disappear at random. Just then, a patrolling guard walks inside, only to be stunned by the glitching figure, who then beats him down. Cecilia tries to run as more guards come, but the invisible man incapacitates them all before escaping into the stormy night. Cecilia follows him to the parking lot, where she confronts him. In order to protect her unborn child, the invisible figure instead threatens to attack those she loves, starting with Sydney. As soon as the figure departs, Cecilia calls James and warns him of the danger. She also grabs a car and races to his house. Meanwhile, the invisible man arrives and starts to attack Sydney. James rushes to the scene, but the figure subdues him as well. Not long after, Cecilia breaks in and sprays him with the fire extinguisher, revealing his shape. And what a stupid shape it is. She then shoots the figure 4 times, finally resulting in his demise. As she unmasks him, she is shocked to see that it's Tom. Seriously, why the hell did this guy want to help his brother do this? In the meantime, a SWAT team storms Adrian's house and finds him alive, tied up, and claiming that Tom held him prisoner. In the aftermath of these events, James explains to Cecilia that the evidence suggests that Tom used his brother to get to her. However, she is still convinced that Adrian and Tom were working together, and that when things went wrong, Adrian set his brother up as the scapegoat for his crimes. In order to get Adrian's confession, Cecilia goes to meet him at his house secretly wearing a listening device, while James positions himself a few blocks away and eavesdrops on their conversation. They sit at a dining table in full view of the security camera. She agrees to mend their relationship, but only if he confesses that he was the mastermind behind all of this. Adrian insists that Tom was responsible and claims that this experience changed his outlook on life and how he treated her. After Adrian says the word surprise, Cecilia excuses herself and heads to the washroom. He always used to say that word, she thinks, his favorite word in all the land. Meanwhile, Adrian senses something amiss when his head is suddenly jerked back and his throat is slashed. As a result, he collapses to the ground and starts bleeding heavily. Cecilia returns to the dining room and appears shocked. She instantly calls the police, reporting an apparent self-kill in a panicky tone. Out of the camera's sight, however, she coldly stares at a dying Adrian and taunts him, indicating that she had used the spare bodysuit to kill him. She then walks away from the scene, leaving him to die on the floor. James, who hears the commotion, rushes in and stumbles upon Cecilia walking out with a fearless expression on her face. She asserts that Adrian committed the unthinkable, but he soon spots the suit and realizes that she did it. Despite this realization, James appears to have no choice but to believe in her story and let her go.